closer to God than Warren Jeffs. They believe that Jeffs, even behind bars, is the mouthpiece of God, that words he utters are divinely inspired.
Hi, this is Capun Piso with more facts. Now, divinely inspired. The word is also Mahdi, or prophet, or Christus, or Archerios Magistus, or etc., etc. The same meaning, different words. It's like Virgin de Fatima, Virgin of Lourdes, Virgin of the Sandwich, Virgin of this, and so forth and so on. It's like the word God. God is equal to Christ, to Allah, to Winnie the Pooh, to Mahoma, to the penis, to everything that you want to talk about. Odin and all that. So that's what the word God means. It's a divinely inspired one is equivalent to prophet and Mahdi and all that. Let's keep that in mind so you understand what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the psychosis of believing God.
Leaders and their followers who live here simply want to be left alone.
Look at the dress. They're stuck in the Middle Ages.
But real violence.
They're very, very ignorant people.
To the community.
They're retarded. They're sick.
This burned out patch of grass in the town of Colorado City, Arizona, is evidence of what authorities say is a very disturbing example.
They're burning books.
Arizona state investigators say FLDS leaders burned dozens of books here. And what do they do with the books?
Christians burned
of the building.
libraries in the 4th century.
We assumed that they
burned people, they were libraries, they destroyed pagan temples and all that. And this is
on the pile because we saw
it's 1800 years ago. Typical Christian, typical Christianity.
This
the psychosis.
The remnants of one of the charred books, a textbook.
Of course. When Constantine in 325 gathered all the different leaders, religious leaders of the cult of the Christus. The cult of the Christus actually began with the sacrifice of Julius Caesar. That was a prophet, it was a Christus, it was an anointed one, it was a divine character. You can call it Christus, you can call it Mosiah, you can call it anything you want, but it was a son of God, it was God incarnate. That was Julius Caesar, he was sacrificed. But anyway, all these cults divided into many, many, many different religions over 300 years. And then there were so many of them, and they're all fighting with each other, that this became the heresies, the so-called heresies. And Constantine decided to gather and unify the religion of the Roman Empire that was completely divided into the many religions of the Christus, the immolated God in heaven, Julius Caesar the Christ, which would be transformed into the Jesus Christ with the apostles and Christianity and the rest of the fairy tales. So Constantine allowed only one cult of the Christus, which was the one from the city of Rome, which where everything happened. The comet appeared when Caesar's funeral games. Caesar was the son of Venus, was immolated. His blood was sacred, etc., etc. That's what the whole thing. So Constantine in 325 gathered the Council of Nicaea and formed the Catholic, means universal, religion of the Christus. Christianity was born. Intellectual stagnation began, and they started destroying books and burning books and building, eliminating paganism during the next 100 years. And that's where the collapse of the Roman Empire began and Christianity spread. The Roman Empire fell in the 490 CE. The last Roman emperor was Augustulus. But anyway, the problem was that Constantine began this. One religion, one God to be worshipped, intolerance began. And the same thing continued in his city that he founded, which is Constantinople, which remained until 1453 with the Christianity, Orthodox Christianity. But anyway, this is the beginning of burning books and burning and destroying temples, destroying images, chopping the penises of the images, eliminating the noses. The reason you see a lot of the Roman images and all that without a nose or without a penis, because you breathe the spirit with our noses, the spirit world. So you chop the head off, or you put a cross on a statue, or you bury them and burn them, you eliminate the demons. And that's the reason you have a lot of sculptures without noses and without penises. So that was the beginning of the problem. And now Christianity created intolerance, pedophilia, intellectual stagnation, etc., all these problems that we see today. And one of them is Mormonism. That is the reason you see all this burning, all these books, and people dressed like the ones 120 years ago.
Chief Investigator Gary Engels, police here obey the religious leaders first, civilian leaders second.
Exactly.
Constitution of the United States, or to Warren Jeffs, their prophet?
I believe that their allegiance is probably more to the church.
Like,
I know they were required to swear allegiance to
America is a Christianity-infected nation.
Not too long ago.
Exactly.
Was for a time in a different Texas jail a few dozen miles away.
I would say probably in excess of 10,000.
And is it unusual to spend that much money? Have you ever had an inmate spend as much money on phone cards?
No.
He's allowed to.
Authorities tell CNN Jeffs has been given cash by his loyal followers to pay for the calls.
He's a prophet.
Said, mostly lengthy sermons and detailed instructions.
Of course.
To his followers a few miles away at his isolated yearning for Zion Ranch, the twin polygamous towns of Colorado City, Arizona, and Hilldale, Utah.
This is prophet.
Sounds like he's still running the church from jail. He is. Insiders agree with him. But what it hasn't done is stop a growing feud between those who still believe in him and those who now believe he's a child molester.
Well, we must realize that child molestation is a creation of Christianity since the 4th century, because it was actually a misinterpretation and a corruption of the Roman religion, where children were considered sacred. The sexual organs were considered sacred and they were worshipped. And this is actually a fact that I can actually prove with the Roman epigraphy. So children in those days in the Roman Empire were sacred. They were divine. You never see all the boys were depicted naked, never with a heart on, never erect or aroused, never. Female children, little girls, were depicted with clothing representing the gods. And here is the evidence. The problem is that Christianity, which created not only pedophilia, molesting children, see, they're getting sexual gratification from children, puberty. And the reason of this is because of corruption of the Roman religion. And this is exactly what happened. The same applies to sadomasochism and racism. The color of the skin was irrelevant in ancient Rome. Children were never seen as sexual objects. There was no such a thing as pornography. There was no such a thing as homosexuality as we know it today. Homophobia. It didn't exist. There was no the sadomasochism, gratification from torture and from sexual gratification. That it didn't exist in Rome. This is all creations of Christianity. This I can prove. I can prove all what I'm saying. It's historical fact. It's all in the epigraphy. And this all can be proven. So this thing with Christianity nowadays, with all this intolerance and children molestation, and I'm in the ring, a pornographic ring, which is of children under 10 years old, molested. This never happened with mentally healthy people. Atheists will never do that. As far as I can tell and I can see, it doesn't happen because we are mentally healthy people. We don't see children as for sexual degradation. Those are people that are corrupted with the religious beliefs. And here are some images from Rome that proves my point. Children in ancient Rome were a representation of the gods. They were always very, very well treated, represented naked, as you can see here. All the temples, all the monuments, the children were, the boys were represented naked and very innocent, very sacred. The children were never, never, never molested in ancient Rome or mistreated. It's incredible. He is the genius representing the soul. And the young ephebe, they're all never erotic in any sense. Here you see Apollo, representing Apollo and Venus, the equivalence of the gods of procreation in the sky. And you can see the Cupid, which is one of the sons of Venus, with the bow ready to create lust. This is the god of silence, Harpocrates, also represented as young. The Emperor Hadrian loved children. Here he's protecting them. He built hospitals for them, all kind of schools for them. And here is with wings, the messengers of the god, the Cupids of Venus. In in the Celtic cultures, all the children are always represented as good, as gods. Here
if he was standing here today.
3 years ago, Willie Jessup was one of Jeff's most trusted lieutenants. A compound in West Texas that was raided by Texas Rangers to show CNN that there was nothing inherently bad taking place.
Those people, they're sick. Psychotics.
Today, Jessup says Warren Jeffs has betrayed his church.
He confessed to doing some very terrible things, including molesting his daughter and sister and others, and I think his own words.
You're still a Mormon.
Talking about diaries submitted as evidence that he says were left by Warren Jeffs after his arrest in Las Vegas 5 years ago.
That's a psychotic man.
Talking about these pictures showing Jeffs embracing and kissing young girls no more than 12 or 13 years old. Jeff.
That will never be sanctioned by me.
Yeah, but you're still a psychotic.
Church.
See? You're still in the church.
It's just a matter of times and figure out how to cope with what he has done.
Pedophilia. Christianity invented pedophilia. All Christians do that.
Authorities in both Texas and Canada, Jeffs orchestrated what Canadian police have called a child trafficking ring.
Well, there's the thing that is amazing. Warren Jeff is accused of pedophilia. The Vatican, the priest, everyone has been molesting boys. The Mormon, Warren Jeff, is a prophet. He is a Mormon. And he is part of the church, which started, the Mormon church started with believing in golden plates and angels and all the rest of Christ psychotic fantasies. Now, Brigham Young University believes in all that. They had bigamy or polygamy, many wives, since the beginning and founding of the. How old were the wives? They were not 18 or 20. No, they were young girls. You know, since 1,500 years ago, since the church was, every man married or got sex with 12, 13, and 14-year-old girls, virgins. All the Muslims that the Prophet Muhammad, first he was married to, well, we don't know if he existed. It's not proof that he actually existed. But anyway, according to Islam, he divorced his older wife, and then he married Aisha, who was supposed to be 6 years old. But of course, he didn't consummate the marriage. He was the cave of creation that he was going to have build the church and the religion itself and the children in a young virginal woman representing the gods of ancient times. The vagina in the sky, young. But see, all this Roman religion has been corrupted. First by Christianity, which is the beginning of the whole thing in the 5th century. So the Mormon, how can you condemn a guy, Warren Jeff, that is a prophet, and don't condemn the rest of the Mormons? Why don't condemn the rest of the Mormons? They are polygamy, they have a lot of wives. How do you know there is no one to molest a little girl 15, 16 years old? I mean, do we have cameras in the bedrooms? No, these people are deluded. They belong in mental institutions along with the other Christ psychotics like the Baptists and the Methodists and the rest of the people that spout this delirium and this psychosis, false, garbage, metamagical, bizarre beliefs and teach all that in schools and in churches. And they teach that in mosques And there's so many Christian denominations. They're all as loony as you next. And they're all psychopath. They're all sadomasochistic. They're all pedophilia people. And they molest the mind of children, but they also molest their bodies. And they're all, they molest their boys too. Homosexuality, is inherent in everyone. Because, well, by nature, we're all bisexual. We have little nipples in here. But they don't know any science. So this is the problem. So you cannot condemn Warren Jeff without condemning the whole lunacy of Christ psychosis. People that believe in resurrecting zombies. So that's what Jesus Christ is. He's a zombie. He resurrected and he says with blood. And we know that it's a mythological, just like Winnie the Pooh or any other story. And this is the problem. Nobody addresses that. So if you're going to condemn Warren Jeff, who's a Christ psychotic person, believes he's a prophet and talks to God, you ought to condemn also everybody that believes in resurrecting zombies, which are all Christians. And anybody that believes in this garbage today in the 21st century, they do have a problem, not unlike a schizophrenia, a schizotypal disorder, or temporal lobe epilepsy. And this is a fact. So we have to condemn everyone that is infected with this disorder, not only the prophet, Warren Jeff.
Yes, there seem to be more people supporting Warren Jeff than those trying to unseat him.
Exactly. Mormonism started with bigamy, with many wives and all that. Polygamy.
Controlling the destiny of the nation's largest group of believers in polygamy in Arizona.
Tell me what Warren Jeffs means to you.
He's a prophet.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I mean, how?
Everything.
He's everything to you? And you want to be married someday?
Of course I do.
And do you want to have sister wives too?
Of course I do.
Like how many sister wives would be perfect, do you think, in your family?
As many as I get.
That's right. So this problem that we're having today is thanks to Christianity, Christ psychosis. And yes, Mormons are Christian. Joseph Smith, the first prophet in about 1830s, his parents were all Christians, fundamentalist Christians, from with all this believing in all the Bible, probably the Geneva Bible and different Bibles that they had with all these fairy tales. And Joseph Smith, on top of that, he believes in a prophet that came around. So I created a new religion, thanks to drugs, entheogens, the Datura flowers, perhaps, that he actually ingested. He saw the angel with golden plates and all that. That's where all religions began. But it is a psychosis today. It is in the brain. And the whole thing began as we trying to understand nature, over 40,000 years ago. And the main idea of nature was, of God's created in the brain, were the elements, and of course the spirit world, the air. They were the gods, this force. The soul is nothing but air in our lungs. That's what we breathe. Today we know that believing God is a psychosis, and people don't seem to understand it, especially in this country, United States. That's the reason the country is the most ignorant country. And then we have the Tea Party. These people are ruined. They are clueless of science and economics. They are ruining the country. And on top of that, the Republicans also, Christ psychotic infected morons. And the Tea Party are going to ruin the country. They got elected by Christian, ignorant, clueless of science, Christian morons that put them into office, morons. And now you'll see the results. They don't even have an idea what a debt ceiling is. Or they pray to zombie Jesus and see if it brings the economy correct. Like a governor, the Christ psychotic governor of Texas, Perry, trying to pray to the God for rain. This guy is a loony, is a schizophrenic, and we shouldn't have governors like that in the country. Anyone in the country, a psycho like that, a schizophrenic like that, a Christian. And this is the problem today. But religion is a mental illness. And no one put it more aptly than Dr. Sapolsky. But here is the idea of something that we see all the time, air, what I've been talking about. This is the God, the spirit world, air.
It was the ancient world, it was the spirit of the ancestors floating in the ether, just like the sun and the stars. Today we know they're clouds. The birds were the spirits of the soul. And they also give it static electricity, which was part of the soul.
Imagine an insect. To them, they were also sacred, like the water that these poor guys fell into. The water was also a river of life, equated with milk, breast milk, and the semen.
Imagine to the ancient men what nature represented, what clouds were, the air, the birds. They were the spirits, the spirit world. They also produce electricity, which were the light bolts of Zeus and Apollo. The sun god reflecting against the clouds. To them it was divine. White clouds, perhaps, self-righteous spirits. Dark clouds, those condemn. Image of the spirit world. The clouds, the spirits suspended, as well as the sun god, the moon goddess, and the stars, as well as the spirits, the air in the lungs of our ancestors.
And pareidolia makes me see a white poodle in the clouds.
They say the ordinary became the extraordinary.
Typical psychosis.
Have been doing for years, raising chickens and gathering their eggs. But it was a particular chicken that caught their eye.
There was just like a miracle.
Clearly, the eggs what appears to be a small cross.
Ha! Pareidolia. Woman is crazy.
God did it.
God did it. What about if they saw a picture of a penis?
Treasure laid before her.
Image of a penis or of a dick or anything like that, or an ass.
Presents and, you know.
What? This is typical psychosis. A woman has a problem with her brain.
And I think he was just telling us.
Telling you what? Idiot.
Open this box and they look down. It's like opening.
Go see a neurologist, lady. You have a problem with your brain.
A lot of happiness. I've seen a
hope and has renewed the faith of at least one North Texas family, just in time for Christmas.
Psychosis family.
And then comes the other god, besides the spirit world, which is water from the sky, with the static electricity also, and thunder and noises, music of the gods.
I'm explaining what the ancients believed long time ago. They had no idea they had a brain. Now, how those beliefs are being transported to the present time, and they are being transformed, and accepting those beliefs today in the 21st century as reality, when we know neurology proves we create those beliefs and the mind and thoughts with our brains. Accepting those beliefs today in the 21st century reality is not much different than a neurological disorder that accept bizarre metamagical beliefs as true, like schizophrenia or temporal lobe epilepsy. All religions, they used to accept metamagical beliefs as true. And shamans, priests, imams, witch doctors, whatever you want to call them, spiritualists, and conspiracy theorists that believe in UFOs and all that, priests, they all have their mind a little bit screwed up. You know. And of course, if they take drugs, they're really able to see God. And a brilliant mind that actually explains it the best is a neuroscientist, Dr. Sapolsky. Here he is.
Typos is what is termed metamagical thinking. And this is where things begin to get interesting. Metamagical, who is thought disordered, psychotic, unable to function, this is someone who just kind of believes in strange things. This is someone who's really, really into science fiction. Okay, I see some of the concern popping up here. This is someone who's into some sort of new age stuff in a really frenzied sort of way. This is someone who believes in mental telepathy or UFOs. This is a first hint. This is someone who, if they have a religious structure or belief, has an extremely concrete level of interpretation. Quite similar to schizophrenia, what apples, oranges have in common, multisyllabic words, that concreteness at the level of abstraction. These are people who tend towards extremely fundamentalist, concrete interpretations of religious events. This is not a metaphor, this is not a parable, this could be measured down to the minute. People alive who were once dead, this is not a metaphor for keeping the spirit going, this is an exact description of the event. We begin to see where we're heading here. What schizophrenia is a very mild version of schizophrenia in terms of the loose associations, in terms of the concreteness of associations, the social detachment, and most of all, the metamagical thinking. And this is now a standard diagnostic category in psychiatry to have a schizotypal personality.
Just listen to these kids from Anoka Middle School's Gay-Straight Alliance. Many aren't gay.
Since gay is in the name of the club, it's like, oh, you're automatically that. And we're not.
Exactly, same to the Christians. Christianity.
But just being in the club.
They're the ones that created all this intolerance.
And if you've been bullied in the last.
It's a psychosis. It's a psychopath.
Last week.
Cry psychosis.
How does hearing these words?
Those kids get bullied because
you're different. How does this make you guys?
Because of the sex preference. It's natural in human beings.
Deeper and deeper. It's like a wound that won't heal.
Exactly.
Why'd you decide to join?
It's just a safe place to be.
Yeah, so teach this
kids
sex education and teach them that believing God is a mental illness and start with that.
The kids.
There's no such thing as God. It creates intolerance and psychopathy.
Any more of their friends.
Get rid of religion, you get rid of the problem. Religion is a psychosis. Religion molests children's brains and their bodies.
The bullying.
Make them all crazy. Feeling bad. As you can see, every problem that we see today in the United States is related, is connected to religion. Especially in the United States, to Christianity. To the bizarre metamagical belief accepting mental illness or disorder, malfunction of the brain. That is not much different than schizophrenia or schizotypy. And this is the problem that nobody seems to see. That's just when you have homophobia, you have intolerance, you have pedophilia, you have all these problems, the country being screwed up. And this is all due to religion. To Christianity, to this believing in the zombie Jesus, imaginary friends that are creating our brains. Some people don't read; they're clueless. Remember, we are born out of a collision of a sperm and egg. That passing our genes, and 9 months later, embryogenesis, and the body was created. We're not born out of a stork. We are not born out of a God sapping things into existence. This is an asinine, stupid, irrational concept. And who has a stupid, asinine, moronic concepts? All religions, beliefs do. That's who. So, hey, it's important that we must address the illness of believing God. We should take all these Bibles and all that, and those are the books that ought to be eradicated, and put as a XXX as pornographic, a material that is unfit for children. All religious books. To replace it with science books that are based on reality. And anybody that believes in God should be treated for a psychosis that they have. It's very, very dangerous, especially having people in control of the country, in control of all kind of things that are such nuts. Pace de Orom.